Happy Tuesday, everyone. We got a strength day coming your way. So, same format as before, keeping the rest short, all right? So that rest is really just a transition to the next movement. Give yourself a moment to kind of regroup and set up. So keep that in mind. We're gonna be moving pretty steadily. Plus we have to get up and down off the ground today twice. So there is gonna be a little bit of up and down motion in our work set. To get us there though, what we have is a quick little warm up to the top. We have a wide stance, good morning for 5. Dumbbell side scale raise for 5 aside. Dumbbell front scale raise for 5 aside. Followed up with a squat with 5 reps, 3-1-3. So that squat could be anything. It could be a narrow squat, regular squat stance, sumo squat, combo, whatever you'd like to do to get those legs ready to go. Take that down at that nice slow tempo. We'll hit that for 1 to 2 rounds. Then you can go into a practice round, which I'll have written out on the webpage at the workout description. It'll be basically just a chance to touch on each of these movements for a few reps or for a lot of time frame, allowing you to practice those things and make sure you have everything kind of under control and or adjust any loading that you might need to adjust in our work set. So the workout today is going to consist of our dumbbell squat for 60 seconds. So we're going to work on the goblet or the front squat. So it's up to you in terms of what you want to work with today. You'll do that for 60 seconds. Then you'll move into a 15-second rest. We're going to lay on the floor and work on a dumbbell tricep roll back. So we're going to work on a single dumbbell or 2 dumbbells, depending on what you have access to, and I'll show you what both of those look like. You're going to do that for 60 seconds, rest 15 seconds, into a dumbbell elevated lunge for 30 seconds per side with that 10-second transition between the 2 sides. Then you'll have that 15-second rest, and we'll move into our dumbbell bridge pullover for 60 seconds. You'll do that for that 60-second time frame into our rest of 15 seconds and repeat anywhere for 4 to 6 rounds. Again, depending on how much volume you'd like to take down today, I can tell you that roughly 5 rounds will take you anywhere between 22 to 25 minutes to take down, depending on your transitions. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. It does take a fair amount of work to get these rounds in, so give yourself the time frame you need or the volume dose that you need for you today. On the last piece, each of these movements and each of these reps will have a 3-second eccentric, so the lowering phase of the movement will be done slow and controlled to help build that strength and control the movement. Let's get you warmed up. Let's cover these movements. We'll get you ready for action. All right, let's get those bodies moving. Let's get those feet under the hips. We'll take the arms up big and tall. We'll just stretch it over to one side. We'll come back through, stretch it to the other side. And come back up, and this time we're going to bring both hands down behind the neck. We're going to work on those triceps a bit. So we're going to squeeze the ribs in. We're going to squeeze the glutes a bit. We're going to reach with the elbow. We're going to come back down. We're going to reach with the other elbow. And come back down, reach with the elbow, and down, reach with the elbow, and down. 2 more, reach with the elbow, down, reach with the elbow, and down. Good, big stretch. We're gonna reach with one side, big side bend, big reach to the other side. Good, hand forward fold. We'll touch those toes, walk up the shins. We're gonna come down, framing a foot, we'll step back into our lizard. Inside hand is going to reach way up to the sky. We're going to bend at the elbow. We're going to reach straight ahead. We're going to pull that elbow back. We're going to reach straight ahead, pull the elbow back, straight ahead, and pull the elbow back. Big reach. We're going to rotate for 1, forearm to the floor. Come back up, plant the hand. We're going to step back into that down dog, reaching those hips. Nice and set here through those shoulders. Back into our plank, stepping the other foot up, setting those hips. We'll take that inside hand all the way up, bend at the elbow, reach straight ahead, pull back, straight ahead, pull back, and straight ahead, and pull back. Reach into the sky, we'll rotate for 1, come back up, plant that hand, grip the floor, step back into that down dog, reaching those hips. We'll come back into our plank. Tiptoe those feet. We're going to slowly roll all the way up. Big stretch. Little shrug. Bring those arms back down and bring them on down. Let's get you guys ready to go. All right. Now, If you'd like to show your body a little bit more love, maybe show your upper body some love after yesterday's interval work, please do so. We're going to continue on getting you guys ready and fired up, starting with that lower half before we move in to the rest of the work set. So pause the video, take down some gentle stuff if you'd like, or come along with me and we'll start that first phase of our warm-up together. All right, you guys, we're going to kickstart off our day with our wide stance good morning. So that's going to talk about taking those legs out to a nice wide stance. Not so wide that you cannot open your hips fully. So we want to make sure that our hips are open and we can stand in a nice tall position. I'm going to turn sideways so you guys can see, but we're looking at that wide stance that allows us, if we were going to do a side lunge. So I'm going to squeeze my glutes to keep my hips open. I'm nice and tall through the ribs in that chest position. I'm going to pull my hips back, letting the knees soften a bit and allowing that upper body to hinge. And then I'm going to squeeze and stand tall. So from here I open up the hips, I get nice and set, and I pull the hips back. In that pull back of the hip, that's what allows the chest to come down. With this wide stance though, I really need you guys to focus on keeping those big toes down, because it's very easy as we pull the hips back in the wide stance to shift our weight back to the heels and let the weight come out of those big toes. So weight in the foot is always through that lace position, but we want those big toes down, so really focus on those toes. Our next movement, what we have for you guys, is our dumbbell side scale raise. So this is just giving us a little reference to the side body. So we're going to get ourselves set up with a dumbbell in one hand, keeping that dumbbell nice and set and controlled, so it shouldn't be moving around too much. And we have to really focus on keeping that straight line of action. So from here, I'm going to keep my ribs in, my glutes engaged, my toe, top of the foot, pointing towards the front. I'm going to lift, keeping that dumbbell still, and then I'll lift again, working that control with that little bit of loading to challenge that side body engagement. This does not have to be heavy to be effective, so please keep that in mind. If the side scale raise is a challenging movement as is, please keep the weight light or try without any weight first so you can work on the balance. But I do find that a little bit of counterbalance here can really assist with people getting that movement a little bit more controlled. Right after that, we have our front scale raise with the dumbbell as well. So we have our dumbbell on the same side that is doing the balancing. My hips and glutes are engaged and square to the front. I'm going to lift that leg straight up, working on that good control and working on maintaining a nice straight leg for balance. So as I hold this position and I start my lift, I keep this balancing leg straight, preventing any buckle of the knee. So we just have to make sure that as we're doing those things, that we're keeping those hips square, that leg is strong and it's stable. So a couple of reasons that we might find that the knee buckles when we do that front scale. We might be trying to go too high for what our body can allow in terms of mobility, or we're using momentum and we're whipping that leg up and our body's just not engaged enough to maintain that position. So make sure that we're focused on the balance and then engagement through the hips. Last but not least, we have a squat, and this squat can be pretty open to where you want to be. So I'm going to show you all three different variations of stance, starting with our regular squat stance. So our regular squat stance, just outside the hips to shoulders, toes can be slightly turned out. From here, we're going to take our hips to our heels, trying to keep the weight through the midfoot, our chest up nice and tall, and our toes slightly turned out with our knees tracking those toes. So in terms of our body position or mechanics, it stays the same for all three different variations. So from our regular stance, we can take it out to our sumo stance. The only difference here is we need to push the knees out a little bit more so that those knees don't collapse inwards with that wider stance. The hips still draw towards the heels, the chest stays upright in that good strong position. Last option, we can come in, so we come narrow stance, and that can be anything inside of our regular squat stance. And you'll notice that my feet stay flat still, my hips go towards the heels, and my knees still track the toe. This is going to be a little bit challenging on the shins and the ankles a little bit more so. So keep that in mind as we do that squat. But if you have tight ankles like myself, you are going to feel that heavily through the front portion of your leg in terms of the shin and the ankle. It's a great stretch. Use that tempo to help open up those hips, ankles, and knees, and it's going to set you up really well for the dumbbell squats that are coming your way. As a quick recap, we have a wide stance good morning for 5, dumbbell side scale for 5 a side, dumbbell front scale for 5 a side, and a squat of any type with that air squat position for 5 reps at a 3-1-3 tempo. 1 to 2 rounds just to get yourself prepped and ready, work on some skills, and now we're going to talk about our practice round or the movements in our work set. So pause the video, take down that opening piece, come join me as we talk about our movements today. So our movements today kickstart off with a dumbbell squat, and there's 2 variations we can play with today, which is the goblet or the front squat. If you have 2 dumbbells, you're more than welcome to do a double front rack position. It's up to you. But what we have for you guys is that beautiful upright torso, and that's what we're looking for to build in either the goblet or the front rack. It's a very heavily controlled squat with our core and our midline. So what we want to think about is that regular squat stance that we worked on perhaps in our opening sequence. So just outside the hips to shoulders. My toes are turned out, and I'm going to press into the dumbbell, keeping my body a little bit more upright. Now I squeeze my glutes, keep the ribs in, and take my hips to the heels, keeping the chest up nice and tall, and then I stand upright. So the other variation we have, we can clean the dumbbell up to the shoulder. I get myself set up in the front squat, and I'm going to work on the same idea, except I have to support the dumbbell with that front rack position as I push into the dumbbell a little bit. I take the hips to the heels, keeping that body and torso tall, and stand. So the mechanics are the same between the goblet and the front squat. We just have to really focus on maintaining a nice solid midsection. I also do like to kind of focus my attention on pressing into the dumbbell a little bit with the goblet, because sometimes we can forget about the upper body and just sort of let that body collapse, and we want to make sure, like I say, we're building that tall torso. Now our next exercise is our tricep rollback, and we've done these before with 2 dumbbells. We're going to try and show you 2 dumbbells and a single. So what we have for you guys, we have 2 variations. We're going to get ourselves set up. For all the variations, the setup is the same. My feet will be just outside my body, just like a bridge. My ribs will be pulled in, so I'm nice and tight and stable here. And what I'm going to do is I'm either going to have 2 dumbbells up parallel to each other over top of my body, just like I finished a floor press. From here, I'll pull the dumbbell back to the shoulder, keeping that elbow and tricep nice and vertical. Then I'll touch the back of the dumbbell to the floor if I can, and then I'll extend my arms, almost like I'm throwing the dumbbell to the ceiling. So I break at the elbow, bring the dumbbell to the shoulder, touch the back of the dumbbell to the floor, and then I extend. So we have that nice smooth flow on the extension. Now if you have a single dumbbell, you can do a very similar movement where we hold both ends of the dumbbell with 2 hands. We break at the elbow, so we kind of take the dumbbell down towards our forehead. Then once we get it to our forehead, we're going to take the dumbbell back to the floor, and then we're going to extend. So we keep that elbow upright towards the ceiling. The dumbbell comes towards the forehead. We take the hands to the floor, extend. All right, so we break, touch, extend. So you can work on that single dumbbell, touch, extend. So we can work on that tricep rollback with that single. Now, depending on what kind of weight you have, all right, at home, will depend on what you're comfortable doing. So if you have a heavier dumbbell and you're like, whoa, I don't know if I can do the tricep rollback with 2 of those or even 1 of those, what you can also work on is that skull crusher position, which is basically just the first portion of that rollback. So we come back just to the forehead, and then we extend straight up to the sky. The key part here, you guys, is that we're focusing on isolating that tricep by keeping that elbow pointing towards the ceiling while we break at the elbow. And then we kind of move from there with the rest of the body. Right? So taking your time with that, we really want to focus on isolating that. 60 seconds can be a tough amount of time, so make sure we're moving slow. If you need to take a moment or even pause at the top of the movement for a couple seconds before you move into the next one, please make sure you're good to go with that. But if you have proper dumbbells at home to do 2 hands, all right, rock it. If you have to use the single, rock it. It's going to be a great opportunity to tackle those triceps. Now our next exercise is going to be a dumbbell elevated lunge. So with the elevated lunge, what we're going to work on today is a back lunge. So I don't have any elevation here at the moment, but I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So with the dumbbell elevated lunge, all right, or even just elevated lunge, the front foot is going to be on an elevated surface, 2 inches to 4 inches max. It does not have to be higher than 4 inches. The front foot will be on that apparatus. We're tight, we're strong, we're solid. The other foot will step back, and then we'll come down into that kind of extended range of motion lunge. Then we'll stand and come back up. The same lunge mechanics apply that we use in every other workout that we use lunges for. We want to make sure that we try and keep our lead knee stacked over our heel, our back knee is stacked under the hip and shoulder as we can, and our torso is upright as we can. So we don't want to be collapsing over the front leg. We want to stay nice and upright. You are going to do 30 seconds on one side and then 30 seconds on the other side. Now if you're looking at me going, Dave, lunging is hard enough as it is without adding elevation to it. That's fine. What I want you guys to focus on is your lunge mechanics. So focus on a couple key things with your lunge. And I'm going to lay out kind of a list of progression. So for today, the elevated position with load is going to be top end of the movement set, and that's going to be someone who's very comfortable with lunging. All right, very, very comfortable with lunging. The next one would be elevated lunge without weight. So we're working on that nice elevated lunge, working on that extended range of motion without a load. That's someone who's comfortable with lunging, but not quite ready to go elevated and extend that range with any loading. All right. Next variation, we get rid of the elevation and we work the dumbbell lunge, goblet, front rack, suitcase, whatever you want to do, on a flat surface. So we're just going to work on loading, working on that lunge, working on that position with a load. Again, comfortable with the lunge, comfortable with loading, but not comfortable going to the elevated surface. That's where we're going to live. Our next phase, lunging, no load, still working one side for 30, other side for 30. Again, we want to keep in mind that someone who is going to be like, I can lunge, but I'm still working on my balance, not quite sure about my balance yet with the lunge, I can get a little iffy, all right? Stick with that, no load. And then if you're like, well, I'm not comfortable really with the lunge at all right? I fall around all the time. I have a hard time finding and maintaining my position. You can do a standing lunge drill. So we already get the feet in the proper width. And then we focus on the lowering of the body and the rising of the body. And we do this with or without a load. So we can take it from the elevated variation all the way to building that skill of just maintaining tall posture and proper feet. So I want you to pick the variation that suits you the best, because I want you to use this as an opportunity to better your lunge, your balance, and that single leg strength. So pick your movement, have some fun with it, rock it today, because that's going to help you further that lunge all the way into a nice walking lunge per se, a very high dynamic movement. I will have a couple other options if you don't want to lunge today in terms of that single leg strength work. So check the workout description, but that's a nice kind of tier of lunges that's going to allow you many options and many opportunities to further that lunge movement. Our last movement is going to be our bridge pullover. We did some pullovers yesterday in our work set. Today we're going to add a little piece to it, which is the bridge. So what we have going on here, we're going to lay down, we're going to get our feet set just outside our fingers. We're going to pull our ribs into our set position so we can feel the low back in contact with the floor. We're going to get ourselves set up with the dumbbell in our set position for our pullover. So our pullover, as is, just like yesterday, is in this position. We'll take the dumbbell down to the floor, and then we'll come back up into that nice over the chest position. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to set into that bridge position, pulling those ribs in, and then we're going to take the dumbbell down into that pullover position. So again, depending on how comfortable you feel with the pullover will really depend on what form you go with for range of motion. So we can go two hands on the bell, taking it down. That will maintain a slightly larger range of motion for that shoulder, or we can hold it by the top of the bell so we have a little limited range of motion. The whole time we're doing this, we are holding that strong bridge. So pushing through those ribs, keeping that core tight, and holding this position. So we're not breaking or overextending, we're keeping the ribs in so we're just nice and neutral through that hip and maintaining a good position so that we can work on allowing that shoulder range to work. Very important that we maintain that nice strong position, all right, through the midsection. If you're not comfortable doing the bridge with the pullover, what you can do is you can work on a combo and a hybrid movement. So what we can work on is joining two movements into one. We bring the feet, we get set, ribs are in. What we can do is we can squeeze into our bridge, lower down, feel that contact with the floor in the low back, and then we can do our pullover. So you're just forming a little bit of hip action, feel that connection, and lower with the pullover. And you can play with both instead of joining the two and holding that bridge the entire time. So play with that, see how it feels. It's going to be a nice kind of addition, bringing the entire body into that pullover position. But again, I want you to focus on those shoulders and focus on the range that's challenging but maintainable for you. All right? Now, as a quick little recap, our work set, 4 to 6 rounds. Dumbbell squat, front or goblet, 60 seconds with a 3-second lower. Rest 15 seconds. We have dumbbell tricep rollback, 60 seconds of work, 3-second lower, 15 seconds of rest comes after that into our dumbbell elevated lunge, 30 seconds aside, 10-second transition between sides, repeat for 30 seconds, 15-second rest, then you'll lay on your back, dumbbell bridge pullover, 60 seconds, rest 15 seconds, do it again. So we have 4 to 6 rounds, lots of different movements there. Take your time, move super, super clean and well, and I hope you enjoyed this strength day, you guys. I hope you really have fun with it. As always, work for quality, and we'll see you tomorrow for some more slightly higher heart rate fun. Bye, you guys.